Good evening, welcome to another episode of Easy 8's Online Painter Club. My name's Danny, says it right down there. I hope you've been well since the last time we spoke. I had a really good episode last week in terms of what it was I was actually painting. I've not had the chance to do anything this week to it, but that's been fine. I did a little bit at the end of the show on Discord, went and caught up with a couple of people over there at the end of the week, the end of the show. But throughout the week I've actually had the first little bit of holiday that I've been able to have all year, really. So it's been a really good chance for me just to kind of unwind and forget about stuff and work and commitments and things, obviously knowing that I'm going to come back here today. And my partner also had a little bit of holiday, so we've just been chilling out together and just enjoying some time together, which we haven't normally had. So not too fussed about not getting anything done this week, because last week went so well that I feel pretty confident that I'll get the majority of this part of the project done tonight, which is going to be really good. But showing quite a few people, obviously put some photos up on Facebook of what it is that I've been doing. Lots of really good feedback. Lots of people are kind of like not blown away. That would be blowing my own trumpet, but people are really sort of enthused and encouraged by it. I also, went into Games Workshop and saw the manager in there and showed him, and he was like really got quite excited by it. So I feel really good about it, which is really cool. Anyway, if you are working on something this evening, I would love to know what it is. So if you are like painting something or kind of working on a project or something like that, stick it over there in the live chat with these guys. We've got Kes, hi all, and Jeff, oi. Hi guys, thanks for coming along. Yeah, let me know what it is. If you want to take some photos, you can put them up over on Easy 8 on Facebook. You can also put it on Discord, because at the end of the show I'll be on Discord for quite a while. At the Easy 8 after party, and there's loads of places for you to go put photographs and stuff up there. People have been recently struggling to get photos on Facebook, because Facebook likes to do this thing where it says, oh yeah, if you're part of the community you can put pictures up in the community tab. We're going to change the tab to mentions, and no, you're not going to be able to do it at all. That's fine. If you just go on a Facebook, there's a link down there in the description. Go to Facebook and just find the schedule for tonight's show and just put all your photos in there. Easy, because you can do that at the very least. So I'd love to know what it is you're working on. Perhaps you want to celebrate something that you're doing. Perhaps you want to ask for some advice. I don't necessarily know all the answers. I'm not a pro, but these guys might. So yeah, ask those guys, or just kind of put it down there in the comments if you want to. I read everything. So be it on Facebook, be it Discord, be it YouTube, be it Instagram, because we're on there as well. Then you can put it everywhere you want. Kez says, I am working on Badlands desert scenery. Oh yeah, we've been talking about that on privately on Facebook, but it'd be great actually if you could stick a few photos up, because it's looking really awesome. So that for those of you that don't know, Kez has been doing some Battletech terrain. Could be any kind of terrain, I suppose, but it's all like bluffs. That's bluffs. And is trying to match the colour to a battle mat that she bought. And while the colour was good, it didn't really blend in very well. So we've been having this ongoing chat now for a couple of days about how to get the most out of the reds and the sort of orangey colours that are in there. And I think Kez has pretty much hit the nail on the head. So that's really cool to see. Well done, mate. Looks really good. Out of this world, models and minis. Hello. Hi, John. Thanks for coming along again. It always takes a little bit to come out of his day, all the way over there in the States, despite the time of day that it is and the time difference. Thanks very much for supporting the show, John. Absolutely loving the Star Wars drone that you've been putting up. I haven't seen episode 2 yet. That just dropped today. If any of you are interested, there is a link to John's channel just down there in the description. I did last week's show. I put up a link to the Marmite challenge. What I'll do this week at the end of this show, when I'm allowed to edit the comments and the description, as I'll put a link to the Star Wars drone and the little scout flying vehicle thing. Man, it looks really cool. I absolutely love the glowing effect that you've got in the little turbines. That's something that I've not been able to master yet, and that looks really good. And you've got a little bit of weathering on the front of the actual thing itself. Man, it looks really cool. You should be really proud of that job. Jeff says, I'm drawing up bocage plans. Not yours. This is in 28mm. Cool. So Jeff, my dad, works for Purple Iron Creations. Again, there's a link just down there. Go and have a look. Makes very high grade, professional, custom made works for your tabletop. So if you want buildings or terrain or anything like that, he'll do it. And he's got a particular name for doing bocage for like World War II tank stuff. Looks really cool, all modular, all fits together with magnets and stuff. But I don't play 28mm tanks, I play 15mm tanks. So I've been pestering for ages. Hey dad, build some. And the other day he kind of made a little mock-up, and I've just been looking at his stuff just before the show went live. It looks really cool, but we'll talk about that at a later date. There you go. John says, from out this world, Mods and Minis, thanks, appreciate it. Nah man, it looks really cool. Anyway, Friday, beer's in, right? Lovely. If you are new here, Easy 8 isn't like a tutorial channel or anything like that at all. There's loads of that stuff out there already. This is merely a place where you can come and just like paint stuff like it's a painting club, because that's kind of what it's called, right? It's an online painting club. So yeah, just come along, talk about your stuff if you want to. If you like what we do, maybe consider liking, follow, share, and most importantly subscribing, because every little bit that you do helps me to grow this show, or at least become enthusiastic about it. I am really enthusiastic about it. I really look forward to it every single week. So yeah, subscribe, do it now. Thank you very much. In the meantime, I'm just going to head on over to the workbench, and I'm going to show you my little robot. Here we go. Where's the workbench? So here's my little robot, conveniently popped up on a couple of new pots of paint. John says, I had a couple of pics on the Facebook page. Cool. I'm going to go and have a little look at that. If anyone's interested, go over and have a little look, because it is cool stuff. Yeah, here's my robot, looking super cool. All the battle damage that's here on the sides, on the shoulder. It goes around the collar, goes on the front of his breastplate thingy here, goes over his pec bit, over the shoulder and around the side. So the whole side there is done, and on the top of his shoulder is done there also. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to work my way from the side over here and around the back. I'm going to do this shoulder as well, and then I'm going to do the little bit around the back of the collar and on the top of the backpack, and then legs down basically. The reason I'm starting on the pec over here is because it's a really nice big open place to practice on again, get my skills back in from last week, and then try and match what I've done here. What I'm trying to do is to try and I'm trying to make it look like there's a bit more damage on the front than there is on the back, because the idea, I suppose, is that you'd be walking into it all the time, so there'd be a less damage on the back. So there's actually very little bare metal on here. I've done quite a bit of bare metal on his arm here, and I will do a lot more on the red when I get to that little bit, because, well, these are his main weapon bits right up close. Obviously he's got his gun, but I think that his arms and his hands will probably be taking quite a bit of damage. Maybe I'll do a bit more down at his feet as well for kicking stuff. I've also tried to make it look a little directional, so if his arm was out facing that way, you probably would get like lines of damage going this way. So yeah, that was my intention there. So yeah, just going to start on this side and work my way over. He's currently propped up on a couple of pots of paint. I went into Games Workshop the other day to buy some new Nuln Oil and some new Agrax Earthshade. These are the new recipes, so they have changed how they flow, how they work, their intensity, everything about them. A lot of people have been raving about it. Some people not so much, but you know, you're not going to hit everybody all the time. I have notoriously struggled, and famously I suppose, with Nuln Oil on the show, outside of the show, so I was quite keen to pick up some of this new recipe and see how it works. I haven't got a place for it today, but we'll get there. And while I was there, I also picked up some Agrax Earthshade as well. Agrax Earthshade has always been my go-to, along with Seraphim Sepia, so I'm interested to see how this has changed as well. But those are for another time. Let me just pop him over here. When I was in Games Workshop, I got a free miniature. This is one of the Leagues of Votan, the new Space Squats. So it was really kind of the manager in my local Games Workshop to give me this one here. I know that it's not necessarily kind as a part of what they do, but I got it and I'm really happy about it. I think it would be nice to do this up as a part of another show one day, and perhaps what I'll do is I will experiment with a particular colour or something that I've not done before or much of, or have done but not very well. So if there's anything that you'd like to see me do, any sort of particular colours or styles or whatever, then hit me up either in the comments here, over at Facebook, privately, whatever, man. Just come and let me know. Talk to me on Discord if you want to, and perhaps I'll do a show where I've already made them up and I'll just start painting. White is one of the first things that I thought of. I like white, but it's very hard to paint it and make it look really cool. So yeah, I've got a League of Votan miniature. Lovely, for free. One thing that is worth mentioning today is that after a little bit of feedback from last week's show, is that I've got my camera on a fixed zoom rate. Fixed focus rate. Last week Stafford and a few others were saying that it's a little bit hard when you move things around. It tries to catch up. The camera's really good, but it does track slow. So if I'm not in focus, let me know. If you need me to put it onto autofocus, I will. I know that you're probably working on your own stuff today, but it is nice to be able to see what I'm doing in focus. So if I bring him in close, he will go out of focus a little bit. So he's about here is where I've got the focus point in. So let me know, because I'm all ears if you need that. Anyway, let's move on to getting some paint going. I'm going to work with Charred Brown by Vallejo Game Air, and what I've been doing is using a little piece of sponge just to kind of start the whole process off, and then I match it in along the edges of some of the panels with a brush. I've got hiccups because I just had my dinner. Gonna just kind of get the edges, almost like edge low lighting, kind of interesting. And then I go over a little bit of silver in some places. So charred brown, here we go. And just for those of you that enjoy this part of the show, give it a bit of a shake. And I'm going to stick him in the Wazomatic. That's the Easy 8 Wazomatic. Give your paints a good shake, and then give them a good waz. This one gets used quite a bit, this paint, so it doesn't need an awful lot. Cool, it does shake my diffuser out of my light though. There we go. So, just going to put a good dollop of this in my palette on the side there, just off screen. And today I'm going to be using this old bit of foam that I cut last week. I just tear it off now. I think what's important is just to kind of make sure that you don't go in with a heavy loaded sponge. So I dab quite a bit of this off. But I hold it with a pair of tweezers, it's a little bit easier to control. So just got a bit of tissue here. Now I want it quite heavy on the front, but that doesn't mean that I should go in with a loaded sponge, just like a loaded paintbrush really. So I'm just going to make sure that I dab a good amount of it off. Now he has got a little plug feature on that chest as well, and also he's got like a little transfer on there as well. I'm going to try and not get it on the plug very much, and I'm going to try to make sure that I don't totally obscure that icon in there, but here we go. It's always tenuous, but going in first of all, make sure that I've got like a good spread of paint across the sponge there. It's quite easy as well to like take too much off of the sponge, and it can feel a little bit slow and laborious, but you do get into a rhythm, I've noticed. Anyway, here we go. Probably a bit too heavy there. Let's just go against my finger then. Now I've noticed that even with the watery paint that I'm using, being an airbrush paint, is that it still provides a texture. It still can go on quite thick, but that's fine because rust or like damaged stuff has texture, right? So it's okay. There's John giving me some trophies there. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Thanks for the trophies. Really itchy nose today. Oh, got in a bit too heavy there. What do we think? Shall I remove that? Do you know what? I'm going to leave it. I'm going to be a brave boy. But it is quite heavy on that part of the sponge, so we'll just knock that bit off there. There we go. Cool. Could be like a nice big old weathered bit there. Do you remember last week as well when I was talking about leaving some space for an icon? If I do an icon, of course, I'm going to have to do all the damage all over again on this side, because that's where I left the space for it over there. But I said that I'd found someone that had was willing to print designs for me. But I still haven't been able to get in contact with that guy. However, I have found another person, actually a company that will do it. It is just as expensive as the individual who does it, who I found through Reddit of all places. And there's a person who has his own little company, I think in Poland, but I could be wrong, who does his own transfers, but will do sheets of stuff, custom designs for you. So I thought, ooh, I will message the guy. So I'm going to have a chat with him and see if he will do them for me, riser sheets, and buy a couple of other bits and pieces while I'm there, because he does some really good stuff. The sheets to get printed for custom designs are about £35 a sheet. That's a lot of money, and some might say it's too much. But this is my hobby. This is what I do. So I'm obviously gonna have a chat with him and see, if we can come to an arrangement, or if he's just like, no, this is the price it is, then I'm just gonna have to bite that bullet. But it would be nice to have those army sigils, icons, whatever. So I might just go for it, Here's a tricky bit, is getting underneath that gun and getting underneath the arm. I remember that from last week. Trying to get in and around the underneath the arm is a little bit more tricky, so I might come in with a brush to get in there. It's also quite a big bit of sponge. I think that I've probably expired that piece of sponge there entirely, so I'm just gonna cut that bit off. Go. See ya. Get a fresh bit of paint on that sponge. Maybe using a piece of kitchen towel like this is not the best thing to dab paint off onto, because it's quite absorbent, so it might be like taking more paint away. So I can have a try in a minute and use just like a normal piece of paper or something and see how much different that is. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with a brush. This is getting quite tricky there. So just using my number 0 Raphael Kalinsky brush, and I'm just going to gently just dab in a line along a good portion of the edge on the collar here. Once I've done like a little bit of dabbing, I just kind of run the brush along a little bit just to stop it looking like there's a build-up of dabs, because when you look at it closely, as you always want to do, it does just look like a load of dots. So I always just kind of break that up by just kind of running the brush along them a little bit. And when you do look at it very closely, it does look rubbish, but from this sort of distance, it looks fine. And, well, why would you really pick it up and look at it that closely? Especially while you're learning, or you're, not so good, like I'm not that great. This is a new technique that I'm learning. Be a bit more sensitive to yourself. There's a little bit of sprue mark on there, so I can actually conveniently hide that in some of this colour here. A bit of texture. Perfect crime, like no one will ever notice. And I'm just following the pattern a little bit that the sponge has given me, just to kind of make it a bit more opaque in some places, especially where it's kind of built up quite heavy. That's where I want it to be the heaviest, right? But it'll also add a little bit of texture as I'm doing it as well. What I'm doing is I'm kind of following the line of the edges of this sort of armor plate, and then I'm sort of coming away from that and just again following the impression left by the sponge, and it just stops it looking so edge highlighty or edge low lighty, I suppose. think I want like this sort of edge down here to be quite heavy. And I occasionally change the direction of my brush because it all looks a little not random enough. The bristles come in at a specific angle and they leave a bit of a shape, and if you're just hitting that the end of those bristles all the time, you end up with a recognisable pattern, which I try to prevent from happening. Right, just on the under edge now. Making sure that I get both edges around that. Every edge, if you like, is a corner, isn't it? So there's a flat surface here, but there's also a smaller flat surface in there. And if I don't get in there and do that, it stands out a little bit. Do you see that? So what I do now is I just kind of come on in the inside, and I can just gently and randomly just bring this colour in on that orange in there a little bit. I just make it look like it's the corner that's faded off into rust, and not that just that flat surface. The underside around the back. If you look at the back here, not as heavy. There's no reason why this one can't be slightly heavier or even less heavy. I'm going to try and match it up for now. Again, just trying to get on the underside of that corner down there. Just following some of the patterns that have been left by the sponge. And I think corners where several edges kind of meet is probably a good place to go just a little bit heavier maybe. So kind of match that in like that, there we go. Down the inside of the cuff in here, just make sure that I'm in shot. That's very clever and effective, that is. So Jeff, thank you very much, that's very kind. It is very quick and easy. It's a little bit time consuming in the fact that it's taking me this long to get around here, but once you get into a rhythm, it's actually quite simple. And just with practice, I suppose I'll get better. And I could, like, you know, mash up some old paintbrushes and kind of get different, you know, effects from different styles or different cuts on bristles and things. I could even have like sponge brushes and things if I wanted to. That just by, you know, changing the brush that I use just will add so much more effect. No, that's not actually, oh, excuse me, a bad shout. I've got some rubbish brushes that we all know that I use. I could try those out tonight, can I? Alright, I'll give that a go in a bit. Okay. Down the back here. See, here, at the moment, it's looking a little too sort of uniform there. So what I'm going to do is just try to smush those edges in a little bit. My watch is kind of going crazy. It's stuck on vibrate mode from a message I just got, so I'm just going to take that off. It's very distracting. You should stop that. I'll just put that down there on the floor. It can carry on doing that later on. I'll sort that out. It's just constantly going. Is someone calling me? I'll send it through to my watch sometimes, but no, it's just malfunctions. Yeah, so what I was saying there while I was getting distracted is that the edges here, they all look a little too uniform, so just try and break it up a little bit. I take one of these edges here and bring it in a little bit down there like that. You know, just make it random. And I'm sure I was saying last week that I reckon behind the shoulder here it'll probably be even heavier, right? Just because, well, moving parts and stuff. You know, something like that. I don't think that looks as good as that side over there. I've gone a little bit heavier deliberately, but I'm going to come in with some silver in a minute, and that might change it all up a little bit. I'm going to try and see if I can get rid of a lot of this orange down here. I feel that could be a little bit browner down here. And that is my rusting effect. And then in a minute I'm going to come in with my metaling effect. There we go. I'm going to move straight over to the shoulder and I'll do all of my steel and stuff in a minute. I think what I'll do before I go to paintbrush is I will come back in with a bit of sponge. Just going to tear my piece of sponge in half. I'm going to come in with a small piece here, I think. Let's see where this takes me. Okay. I'm going to start off at the bottom of the shoulder here. So if it's too heavy, it's in an area where I think it'll be better, heavier. See that I probably wiped a bit too much off the sponge. Okay, let's get a bit more on there. Jess says, music is getting louder. Yeah, some tracks are louder than others. We'll go quiet now. John says, looks great. Thanks, man. I still feel like I've got a ways to go to make this look really good. But I am happy with the level that I'm at now. It's just one of those things, isn't it? A bit of practice. What does get me is that the tweezers require so much constant pressure. It's makes my hand ache after just a couple of minutes. That looks pretty good. Yeah, that was a good lump. Oopsie daisy. Just drop him on his face, why not? Yeah, I quite like that. And then what I did last time is I just got my paintbrush, just a little bit of brown on it, and I just did some streaks. I reinforced that bottom edge. So I'm just going to go along here now. Just make this like, it's quite intense. Something like that. And on the underside under here, going to make that quite heavy. Especially to the front side over here. Like that. That should be reflected on the other side. Actually, could be doing a bit heavier over there, couldn't it? There we go. Okay, so now that I've reinforced that bottom edge, now I'm going to do some, just a little bit of streaks, just nothing too much, because I want it to look like it's a bit more directional. Now I learned last time that it's very easy to go over the top here, so rather than just doing like a line, I'm just going to kind of do like dots and stuff, and just kind of drag it. And after a while you kind of get like this sort of random patchy line that starts to appear, and then I just move over a little bit and do a bit more over here. There's a bit of a line there, but actually it looks quite nice, so I'll leave that one. Making that bottom patch just look a bit more intense, a bit darker. And when I put steel in there later on, it should make it look really cool. I think that looks pretty awesome, personally. Just to break it up a little bit, it's going to come in and do like some sideways dabs, just so that not all the dots are in the same sort of direction. Maybe went a bit too much there. Whatever. Okay, that looks kind of cool though, right? Inside of the cuff there, the shoulder bit. Alright, that's pretty good. Not entirely happy with this patch on the back here, but I'm just going to leave it. Steve Jenkins, what's up my hombres? I get a patchy line in my trouser crotch sometimes, thank you very much. Steve has been with us since the beginning, the early days of EZ8, but hasn't actually been involved in a show much at all. Welcome to the show, Steve. Hope you're well, mate. I believe that Steve is coming on to spend some time on Discord at the end of the show, so if you want to come and listen to me and Steve shout at each other over video games, then yeah, come and join us. John from Out as well with Models Mini says you can find tweezers that are always closed and you squeeze them to open, it saves your fingers. I did have some, don't know what I've done with them, but I know which ones you're talking about. They would actually probably be quite handy because yeah, I get like a horrible cramp in the middle of my hand from just holding them shut all the time. What can you do? Right, so now one of the bits that might be a bit difficult to get the sponge piece in there is on the back of this collar. One of the things that I noticed last week was that the front collar really stood out, and it still kind of does because there's that fresh orange line right up against the head of the robot here. So if there's a patch that is like kind of even remotely untouched, it just looks out of place. So I've really got to try and get a decent amount of weathering in and around there, so we'll see how that goes. I've got the hiccups now, too much beer. I'm going to use this tiny piece of sponge that I've got. See if I can get down to a bit of a point here, and I'm going to get that with a bit of brown. I was just thinking as well, I wonder what happens if I add a bit of water to the paint. Will that stop it from, you know, when I'm wiping it off a little bit like this, will it stop it from wiping it all off? Will it actually be easier to use? I'll give it a go in a second. Steve, look what you've done to Kez. Already, just by getting in there with that little sponge, it's added quite a bit of focus to the edge, the corner, if you want, of that collar in there, and it breaks it up so much. It's really good. I don't want there to be too much brown in there because it's not an area that I think would see an awful lot of wear and tear. But like I say, if it's too orange, it stands out. And while I'm trying to make this effect look quite realistic, it's not a realistic thing. It is just a model. And sometimes when you're trying to replicate real life and trying to be too good, it can look out of place on a little miniature. A little bit on the top of the backpack there, but that's actually not a bad thing. And again, I'm going to enhance all of that with a paintbrush in just a minute. What this sponge does is it just adds a lot of random light patches. I can make it denser by focusing on it one area for a little while. But it also gives me a guideline to follow with the brush. That's what I've been finding really beneficial. Got a bit too heavy there and caught the backpack a bit too much. So I'm just going to come in with my finger, just kind of wipe that away. Then that actually looks quite effective, so yay for me. I quite like how that's gone in there. Stuff a bit more sponge in, and then in a second I'm just going to come over and do that with a brush. I'm going to do the backpack here, and one of the things that I'm looking to do is to actually sort of wear away the writing here, because it says Mars M35. This was spotted by Jeff, my dad, last week. This isn't a Martian robot. I called it a Martian robot, but it's not from Mars, it's from a different place. So you could say that, oh, it was made in Mars, or it's talking about Mars. but that just seems a bit stupid. So what I'm going to try and do is just sort of blur it out a little bit so it becomes a little bit more indistinguishable. What I do need is a little bit of paint back in the paint pot. So what I'm going to do now is just going to add a bit of water to the paint that's in there and see how that affects the sponge. Okay, so just loosen up the old paint that was in the palette with a bit of water. What I'm hoping the water does is just basically keeps the sponge moist, so it might make it easier to do this effect with. Just like that, it really is. Well, I wish I knew that a little bit earlier. Could do with a bit more paint in the palette. It's coming out almost like soot, which has probably got its own applications. If I was to kind of do like a watered down black, it could probably do quite an effective soot for exhausts and things, but that's not what I'm trying to do here. So what I'll do, I've got some fresh paint in the palette, add a bit of water to that. Nothing much, just enough to loosen it up. Steve says affecting the sponge. Just so you know, Steve, this isn't recorded, this is a live show. He's trying to put me off, sir. Do it for the likes, do it for the likes. Harvest my social media input. Just by adding a little bit of water, that's gone so much further. I can see there's some quite heavy paint areas on that sponge, so just try and make sure that I don't go in too over the top. Okay, that's just infinitely better. I'm going to try and keep this effect off of the metal frame bits, because this is something that I'm just trying to do on the paint job. Yeah, I just think that even though that metal could be quite heavily rusted, I just think that it's a nice effect to have just on the paintwork, because the silver will just kind of stand out and, you know, stands out from the rest of the damage. It's really good. Okay, let's leave the sponge. My bad, sorry Steve. It's alright, mate. It's quite okay. Anyone who comes to join us on the EZ8 after party at Discord at the end of the show will know soon enough. Okay, make sure that's not too heavy. Okay, lovely, here we go. And I'm just going to start on the corner here, I think, because it's beside the gun pit, so more wear and tear. Bit too heavy on the front there, but whatever. Again, I'm just trying to get the other side of that edge, because that makes all the difference in this effect. Remember that every edge that you're painting as an edge highlight or low light is effectively a corner along another edge. So take the time to flip the model over or around, whatever, so you can come in at it from a different angle. So I've been working on this side, but now I'm working on the underside here. There. And here, especially if I'm trying to work at this corner, it's a little corner down here. What's the model? The model, Steve, is from the Adeptus Mechanicus, basically the agents of Mars. It's just a robot. Space Marines and the Imperial Army, so like humans, don't have robots. They have like machines that they pilot, or dreadnoughts, which I suppose are still piloted by, you know, half-dead Space Marines, etc. But the Adeptus Mechanicus have robots that they program, and they have these fellas, which is this guy here is probably a very over-the-top clawed data smith, a guy who basically programs them in the field. Otherwise, if you don't have one of those, they kind of follow a set routine from start to finish, but you can change the things that they do with a data smith, and it makes them, these robots are double hard, and if you have a data smith with them, it makes them triple hard, I suppose. They have like protocols and things that they can do in certain instances. A data smith can change that. So one of the things I'll be doing in another show is painting the data smith. I don't think I'm going to do the edge on the inside down there. I don't know if you can see that so well. But I think it will be nice just to leave an edge here and there untouched by the rusting effect. Where you expect to see wear and tear and rust and paint wear and things, it's good to do it, but it is nice occasionally to do it in an area, to leave it in an area where it doesn't look silly. Silly. I mean, I'm playing with a 10-foot robot with a giant cannon the size of a mini metro on it. Who's silly now, right? You know what I mean. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do some sort of a pseudo dry brush here. I'm just going to wipe off most of this paint here because it is quite wet. It's added a lot of water to it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run it across the edges here. So it's kind of a quick way of getting all the edges of these individual bars here, but trying to keep it light and sporadic so it doesn't all just build up in one area, so I don't get this obvious line all the way along them. I want it to look quite random. So I'll do a little bit there, and I'll do a little bit down here, come back and do this bit. Like that. Now I can get in the back collar down here as well. Okay. And the way that I find making the weathering look even heavier is, rather than just having a massive build-up of rust, is to come in with the silver. So where you want it to be particularly heavy, that's where the silver comes into play. So when you find those really big, bold, brown patches of rust, you come in with a little bit of silver to make it look like it's worn right through that, or that it wears through that regularly, or, you know, it just makes it look like it's gone deeper. If I wanted to be extra special as well, I could come in with different types of browns, but I think that's quite unnecessary on a model this size. sometimes less is more. I think that looks pretty good. I'm actually really happy with that. Lovely. Okay. Well, we are pretty close to the time where we would go and have a break. So I'm just going to have a quick last look over this and see if I can find any areas that stand out a bit. So I'm still looking at this collar here around the front of it. It's basically his face, I suppose. It still looks a little untouched in some places, especially on these little pointy bits. So I'm going to see if I can just get a little bit of brown just on the edges of those. That actually looks a lot better. It's got these little stylized pointy things, just make his collar look a little bit cooler, I suppose. But they just are a little bit too orangey. And as that paint's dried, it's really matted down, stopped being so in your face, and it's come up really nice, really into it. There's a lot of comments going in. Could they make me a sandwich? They might have a protocol for it. Is it like a giant sandwich toaster? Yeah, absolutely. Kezia says, I just spilt an almost filled jam jar of dark brown wash on my carpet. Yeah, that's not ideal. That's not what you want. You definitely want to get that quick with lots of clean, cold water. I do that now, and hopefully it will come out. Just at the top, if that paint dries, it is in there forever. Just spent the last 20 minutes trying to clean it up. What was the dot about? Oh yeah, I think that was Kez either panicking now, looking back at it retrospectively, or Kez probably rolling eyes at you and your comments about sponges. Back of the legs look like they need a bit of weathering. Yeah, I haven't done the legs at all yet. What I'm going to be doing now after the break is I'll be coming back to do the groin area and the legs themselves, and then I'll come in with some silver and do the same all over it. But I don't go all over the whole thing with silver. As you can see, probably on the smaller screen now, I just do some patches of silver on the bits that are probably like the heaviest to wear, like I was saying just a minute ago, and it just adds a layer of depth to that sort of weathering. It really sets it off. It's really, really good. What I did try to do last week was to try and have like a colour of undercoat, so like a separate orange colour, like a lighter orange colour, but it didn't really work. So yeah, I won't do that now. I'll just come in with the brown colour. Anyway, what we'll do, I'm going to clean my brushes up because I should do. I'm going to go and get myself a fresh drink. And if you guys need to go stretch your legs, or refocus your eyes or anything like that, go to the bathroom, or go and have a chat with Steve and tell him about his weird conversation that he's having. You should go do that now. But whatever you should do, you should definitely go and change your paint water. Go and do it now. See ya. Welcome back. Hope you had a good break. I did. Didn't change my water, but I didn't need to. But I did go and get myself a hot chocolate that my partner made me, and then I stuck a load of booze in it. Happy Friday. Oh yeah, that's quite boozy. Why am I having so much booze today? Because today, literally today, is the 35th birthday of Warhammer 40,000, which I almost forgot about earlier on. It was just, so I was kind of walking up the stairs earlier on, I was like, oh yeah, it's Warhammer's birthday. 35 years, if you can believe that. I'm 41 in a few weeks, so it just goes to show me how long it's been going on. It's been a part of my life since I think around about 1993, 1994, when I was in 2nd edition, and here we are in 9th edition, and me painting giant Martian robot things. Cool, happy birthday Warhammer 40,000. Been a massive part of my life, and all the other Games Workshop things as well. Like just Old World was just great, wasn't it? Old Warhammer Fantasy, brilliant. During the break, I not only did I go and get myself a hot chocolate filled with booze, I also have just been kind of cracking on with the rust effects here. Been trying to get the groin part done, because I figured that if I got the groin bit done, it would stop Steve from saying silly comments. That was literally it, knowing what he's going to be like. I've also noticed that there was a little bit of a glitch during the intermission as well, where it said something about going to a home page on the little chat pane, and I don't know what that was all about. I thought it was just on my screen, checked it over actually on the live feed, and it was coming up there. If you are getting glitches, really sorry, don't know what that's about. I noticed that the screen just went a bit funny then as well. Don't really know what's going on there. If it does become like unviewable, or if it becomes distracting, just let me know. I have had some more comments about the music as well. Ever since I did the PC upgrade, I've not been able to keep on top of the volume levels, so just let me know, because I don't want it to be too distracting for you. Anyway, going to head back on over to the workbench, so you can see what it is that I'm doing. Here we are. Cool. So, yeah, just been kind of just adding a little bit of sponge work to the front of the shall we call it a cricket box? Just in here. So I'm just picking out those edges now with the rusty brown colour, and I've just started doing the tops of the legs as well, and they're actually quite tricky, the tops of the hips, if you I suppose want to call them that, because they're hidden under, well, all of this bit here is really difficult trying to get the sponge in. So all in around this area now, I think it's just being quite reliant on brushwork, and on these little edgy bits here it's not so obvious where the edges are. There's a lot of beveling going on in there, so I'm just trying to make it look as good as I can. Get those tweezers out of the way, they're in my way. Remember, if you are doing a project this evening, let me know what it is. Drop it in the live chat, drop it in the comments if you want to. You can put pictures up of your pictures of your projects on Facebook, or you can put them over on Discord, and we could talk about them if you want to. If you want to celebrate a victory, or if you want to, get some advice, or even pass some advice on. Maybe you've got some ideas on how to do weathering, and you want to show me exactly what it is that I should be doing, because maybe I'm doing it all wrong. It's working for me though. Glitch. It's a good word, not used enough, says Jeff. Good old glitch. Isn't that the sound that mud makes when you stand in it? Glitch. Good word is glitch. So I went in a bit too heavy with the sponge, but I actually had too much water in the sponge. I decided to put a drop of water on my fingertip and then apply that to the sponge, and I think what that did then is the sponge was just too wet. So when I was applying that into here, it kind of went all, it wasn't opaque enough, it wasn't defined enough, but it is giving me like a really good sort of direction to follow with the brush. So I'm just picking out the edges here, although again they are quite hard to identify. Beveling. Lots of beveling. And where I see where the sponge was, it was kind of like a milky down colour really. I can come in with the brush and making it like it was brushwork rather than sponge work. Now this doesn't feel like a very time-consuming process, but I realised that we're already halfway through the show, and I expected to be quite closer to finishing all this rust work by now. It doesn't feel like there's been a lot of time spent in it. It's really enjoyable. And if it was a really monotonous task, it would feel like loads of time is, it's taken me ages, and I would feel the passing of time really slowly. But this is really quite enjoyable because it looks really good. So when you're doing something that looks really good, it just feels rewarding. It just I'm in the zone, man. There are some little patterned lines in there that I really want to pick out with a brown wash. It might be a really good thing to do with Agrax Earthshade at the end of all of this. There's a few little details and things on here that I did do originally, but they're not showing up as dark as I want them to now. As I'm applying battle damage to it, it's darkening down the whole robot, so I want those lines to be even more defined later on. I'm just going back over some bits that we've already done. They look a bit watery, a little too heavily sponged. Now they're drying, I can see what it all looks like, so I'm just going back over a few other bits there. There we go. Connoisseurs will notice that I have my watch back on again. It stopped doing whatever it was that it was doing. It was getting hot on my arm as well, so it was going a bit mental. I was getting some messages on my phone, and I get like a little vibration alert on my watch telling me that I've got a message, and it just wouldn't stop. It was going a bit crazy. It was just so distracting, so I had to get rid of that. Add a tiny bit of water to my paintbrush. Gone through all that paint again, so I'm just trying to loosen it up in the bristles there. Just get the most out of it before I put some more paint in the palette. Let me know if the focus isn't good enough. Like I said at the beginning of the show, this is just going off of some feedback from other people last week. But if I bring the model too close, I bring it out of focus, it won't look so good. I need you to tell me. Jeff says, when you step in something barefoot, it comes up through your toes. Glitch. It does indeed. I can concur, as I am a barefoot advocate. You only make that mistake once, and then forever you will be looking down. Take my word for it. Okay, clearly need a bit more paint in the palette, and I clean my brush out there. It's starting to not look so good. So, give this a shake. And as always, gonna give it a stir, give it a waz on the Easy 8. Pattern pended. It's not pattern pending, don't take that. Wazomatic. Give it a waz on a Wazomatic. Focus is good. Okay, cool, I'm glad to hear it. Thank you very much. It's hard sometimes with the focus because I want to bring it up closer to show you that little bit, like up real close, but then doesn't focus up. So what I would suggest is if you want to see something up close, move closer to your screen. That's my tip for the day. You're very welcome. Okay. Fresh paint in the palette. I don't suppose it's going to get an awful lot of wear and tear on those hip parts up there, so I'm tempted to not go too crazy in there, which benefits me in the fact that I don't really have to worry about getting a paintbrush in there so much. But I will try and get this front edge here. Okay, that's looking pretty good there. I think what I'll do is I'll work my way down the leg here rather than going onto the other side, so that if I now improve my technique, I can apply it to the other leg. Staff says, I made it! Wazomatic. Hi Staff, thanks for coming along, man. I didn't see you at the beginning of the show, you must have been busy. How are you? You all alright? You all good? Are you working on a project this evening? Have you got your little painting studio back today? Last week you weren't able to get in there because there was illness in the house. It'd be nice to see if you're back to it. What if it's a Lego chair if you step in something barefoot? It depends on how hard you step on it, I suppose. Steve says, if I could see it any more clearly, it would be inside my cornea. Good, I'm glad it is that good focus for you. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Jenkins. You can always trust Steve to make the dialogue a bit fruity. That's why we call him Fruity Steve. We don't call him Fruity Steve, but I've just called him that now. I can sense that I am starting to rush a little bit because the end of this part is getting closer, and it's always nice to try and finish something on the show, but I must try and resist that temptation to go too fast just because you know it will come along. I can always get a lot of stuff done this week. I've got a lot more time off coming up, so I can be in the studio a bit more than I normally am. It's nice to be able to put a bit of focus on the model as well. Normally I kind of paint and model, try and rush and get it done, but knowing that I've got a lot of time off, got the whole of this next week off, it's nice knowing that I can apply a little bit of attention to it. What I haven't done, of course, on this section here is use the sponge, and I was wondering why it was quite hard to see what I was doing. I haven't got that little guide to follow that I was talking about. So I will get a piece of sponge. I'm going to put just the tiniest drop of water on there. I've got just a tiny bit of moisture on the end of my fingertip now. There we go. Staff says, I've been dropping off and collecting kits, so just got here. Yes, back in my happy place, building some more German tanks. Jeff says, more? Yeah, he's got more. I've got half his collection here. He came around and played a game the other day. I have to admit, it must have been the most frustrating game of staff in the world, because I just completely chased him for the entire game. And, yeah, didn't work out so well for your Jagdpanther, did it? No, it didn't. So yeah, he left half his models here because I was still playing by the time he left. In the end, I won, mate, just so you know. Okay, might be a bit too much on this sponge, but let's see what happens. Okay, that gives me more of an indication on something to follow. It's a bit leopard spotty in there now. I also appear to have a slight tendency to be going in heavier than when I first started this model. So what I'm going to try and do is hold back a little bit as I now work my way around. I might stay this sort of heavy on this knee pad here, because it kind of matches the intensity on this side, makes it like something has hit on this side. But as you can see here, I was actually quite light with it in comparison, so yeah, I'm going to try and hold back a little bit. Steve saying, so no Italian tanks then? Well, they had them. They didn't use them an awful lot. I mean, the Germans took them from them in the end. Yeah, that might be a source of contention there. Because the Italians, along with a few other countries, didn't really know what was going on until it was too late, and then were just forced to surrender. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know an awful lot about the Italian tanks. It is a good subject to bring up. I don't know an awful lot about them. And of course, I suppose this is as good a place as any to bring up the EZ8 road trip last week. We went to the Bovington Tank Museum, or as it's known, the Tank Museum in Bovington. We've been planning it for a little while, our second visit as the EZ8 community to go there, and we had just as many people turn up this time as we did the last time, with some different faces, which is always nice. And of course we had some annual pass tickets to get us in there. We'd decided that we were going to make it a week later than we'd originally planned, because there was a lot of sickness going around. There's some people that couldn't make it, so it was like, well, do you know what, let's delay it by a week, and we all went last week. So it was the 1st of October that we went there, and as we were all driving there we all got into one big vehicle, all of us together, and as we were getting there I noticed a big banner on the corner, just coming up around the corner, saying that it was Tiger Day, which was awesome in one way, because we get to see the Tiger on one of its 2 days that is actually operational, but bad in the fact that you can't use your annual pass to get in, and I had annual passes for pretty much everybody, because it's Tiger Day and Tank Day, or Tank Fest, are the two things that you can't use an annual pass to get in. So we travelled all this time. We've been waiting in earnest to go for such a long time that we might have not been able to get in at all. I was getting very, very nervous. Was hoping that it was going to be a nice, quiet day for us to walk around in, but there were hundreds of thousands of people because, well, Tiger Day is a big deal. And we eventually worked our way through the queue to get up to the ticket box, and I was able to buy tickets. It cost me nearly £100 to get everybody in there. Yeah, they're Dave Lester. Dave Lester's joined us. And Steve Stafford. A nice quiet trip. Yeah, dear, what an error that was. I thought there was no way that I got that date mixed up, and it took us 2/3 of the stay into being there before Dave Lester that is, realised that someone was wearing a Tiger Day hoodie, and they made it look like concert hoodies, so they've got names of the tanks but they look like band names, if you like, and it actually had the date of the 17th of September on there. So with some inquiries we discovered that they had changed the date of Tiger Day because of the Queen's funeral, which made so much sense, and I was like, oh thank God I wasn't going mental. I felt very bad, but we had a lovely day. It was really nice to get the whole gang out together and some new faces, and I was taking the new people around and telling them all about the different tanks and, you know, how they were used in the war and things, and just talking about, you know, cool nerdy stuff. It was a really good day. Bit travel sick by the end of it, and I was pretty tired by the end of the day, but it was a really nice day out. So to those of you that came out on the Easy 8 road trip, thank you very much for coming out and making it what it was. We had a great time, and now we've got new annual tickets, so yay. Sorry, but at least you got to see the Tiger being used. It was great. Could have been Monkey World instead. Yeah, I hate monkeys. I'm not going to Monkey World, Dave. We spoke about this at length. Just around the corner from the Tank Museum is Monkey World. I don't want to go. I don't like monkeys. Deal with it. Yeah, it's all gone quiet now, Dave. Lowered the tone, didn't you? Bloody monkeys. Because I've seen Tiger Day before, I was able to tell the rest of the group what was worth sticking around and watching. So Tiger Day, they have like a really big sort of function out in the field, out in the front of the museum, and you can sit up on the grassy bank and watch it from there. But they bring out the Tiger, they bring out the Panzer III and loads of other vehicles. They've got the Tiger that they've got is the Tiger that was used in the film Fury, and they've also got the Fury tank there now. The last time that we went for the Southwest Model Show. Fury tank wasn't there. Because it had been on tour somewhere else, showing it around to the other parts of the world. But it was back this time. We got to see that going around, and there were loads of other tanks. There was a Chaffee out. Oh, man, there was loads of stuff. It was really, really cool. But it is very tempting to want to sit there and watch everything, but you'll waste quite a bit of your day, and you'll miss bigger parts of the actual museum itself. And that's what we really went to go and see, because we weren't really going there to see Tiger Day. But we did get to see the Tiger being started up inside the museum with all the engineers out, and while that might sound boring to the average layperson, that's actually really quite interesting to watch. And there's this, you know, wonderful team of, frankly, experts and one lead engineer. He's the only person who's allowed to have anything to do with it. You know, it's really nice seeing them take it out. But the Tiger is so loud and had such a presence in the hangar that none of us realised that in that time they'd also started the engine of the Panzer III, which is only about 6 feet away. It was quite a thing to see. Steve says, I would have come, but I took a Panzerschreck to the knee. Yeah, you do actually have a bad leg at the moment, don't you? Have you injured it again? Is this another injury, or are you just spicing it up for the dialogue? Okay, I'm going to come in again with a sponge because I think that does quite a bit for it. I'm going to come with a different sponge here because that one there is starting to not do a very good job. And I'm going to need some more paint now as well. I'm just being bad. Fair enough, fair enough. But for those watching, Steve does actually have a gammy leg. Didn't stop me from doing much a couple of weekends ago. Was it when we all met up a little while ago into North Wales for a stag do? That was a great day out, that was. Great couple of days out. It showed me how old I actually am. One of the things that I was quite intrigued by when we went to the Tank Museum this time around was some of the things that I've not seen there before. One of the things that myself and Dave Lester wanted to go and see, robot's looking great, thank you very much. One of the things that we wanted to go and see, of course, was the Firefly 17-pound shell. We were talking about the last time we went. We couldn't quite see it because the model show, as much as that was kind of cool to see, was sort of in the way. So one of the things that we had on our agenda was to kind of go and see how big of a shell that actually is, and why it occupies so much space inside that tiny Firefly tank. But they also had the German Tiger 88 round, and if you thought that the Firefly 17-pound shell was big enough, this thing was enormous. It was the size of my leg. It's incredible to see how big that thing is. Like it's huge. They had to have a large tank just to fit all the shells in. It's enormous, absolutely crazy. Steve says, I was not literally injured in the lower extremity by an infantry anti-tank weapon. No, but it does sound cool. Steve says, big boy nap time. How not to get on the paddleboard. Yeah, it was a great day. It was a great day. Tell the truth, you've just got to the age where things just break or fall off. Yeah, yes. Yeah, that much is starting to show. I'm not the sprightly little teenager that I remember being anymore. I think what I'm going to do is pull this little piece of sponge apart to get an even smaller piece. This is getting quite difficult to get in and around behind some pieces there. Steve says that's more the syphilis at my age. Fair point. Mate, I'm not even going to touch that with a barge pole. Oopsie daisy. Try and give him some worn down knees here, because I think that's probably what he'd have. Like my knees, they're a bit worn down nowadays, and I think that a robot of war probably would also have some worn down knees. Okay, it's really hard to use those tweezers. Nor should you, it's unbelievably smelly. Wow, someone's been on the beers tonight. Okay. It's a family show, but we're near the watershed. It's okay. Say what you need to say. Get it off your chest, mate. I feel like I'm possibly going a bit too far with this weathering in some places. Like I really like this bit here. This bit over here is starting to look a bit too much. So yeah, like I was saying a minute ago, I'm going to try and learn to dial it back a little bit. Now I've got this line down here that I could follow all the way with rust and weathering. I don't think I'm going to do both sides all the way. I'm just going to do something that looks patchy. So I'll leave it like that. Around, I suppose, what would be moving parts around the kneecap, around this giant ankle of doom. It's quite an ankle now that I'm looking at it up close. So yeah, I'm just going to pick those two areas out, I suppose, as some wear and tear, and then a bit more just down here. Quite heavy under here, I think. I honestly thought this was going to be a much quicker process, but so keep it looking good, take your time. How's the carpet, Kez? Have you managed to get all of that dark brown wash out of your carpet? Are you gonna get told off? It's not looking so bad. There's a couple of heavy patchy bits on there that I think I can try and tame down a little bit. Dave says, I liked the T-34-85 at the Tank Museum. Yeah, there are two T-34s there. Sorry, two T-34s. They have the earlier 75 version, which was captured by the Finnish. Or not captured, maybe it was leased by the Finnish. Perhaps captured by the Finnish. So it has a mark on them, on it, that is of the Finnish of Finland, and it's got a much smaller gun than the 85 or the 80. Is it 85, 86? Yeah, so the 75 and the 85 or something like that. And basically, the 85 is telling you the size of the round, the shell that goes in it, the diameter of it. So 85 is very close to it being the 88 of the Germans, although the German shell was much longer. It was a magnum round, if you like, essentially. Yeah. So the Finnish one is a much earlier version with an earlier gun, and then they upgraded that gun so it could take on bigger German stuff, basically. So the Panther was designed to confront the early Russian tanks, the early T-34s, and it took in a lot of designs and inspirations from the T-34, like armored, like angled armor, and it did so very well. and the Panther is arguably one of the best tanks of the Second World War, hotly debated even to this day. And then the Russians created larger guns to put in their tanks, and they were very effective. So that's when Hitler started the Tiger program, and as a direct response to the threat with the T-34s. They are incredibly capable tanks, and when you see one up close, you'll see how rough they actually are. They did not care about the finish of them. Their welding is absolutely horrendous, but when the crew aren't expected to survive much more than a couple of weeks, who cares? I think that's a very harsh way of looking at your tank crews, but that's how it was. Kez says, still badly stained, going to get some stuff to clean it better tomorrow. I don't think that's going to work, if I'm going to be totally honest with you. Jeff says, yeah, the 76 and the 85. Yeah, there you go. Thank you very much. Yeah, sorry, Kez. What you got there is acrylic paint, and that will not come out of fabric. Give it a go, though, because you never know. Still can't believe how big it is. Still on that one, are we? To be fair, they are all very, very big tanks. Go on to Easy 8 on Facebook and you'll see a couple of photos of me and the gang, minus the guy who was taking the photo, in front of some of our favourite tanks there. My favourite being the Panzer IV. Just a beautiful tank, and it was just a great day out. So thanks again, guys, for coming out. It was brilliant. We've been talking about going to other places together. There are other military collections nearby, namely Cobberton Combat Collection, which I believe started off as just an enthusiastic collector who just allowed people to sort of pay money and come in to his property to see what he's got. But over the years, his collection has just got larger and larger, which is cool. This is taking quite a bit of focus down here, as you can tell by the fact that I've shut my mouth a little bit. What I've realised is that if the sponge has got too much water in it, when you apply the paint in those little dabs, it comes out ever so slightly opaque. Sorry, not opaque, transparent. So you can see like the orange coming through a little bit. Now if that was rust, it wouldn't necessarily happen like that, because it would well, you go through the paintwork to the metal, and that metal then corrodes, so that the original paint colour won't shine through rust like that, because it's all gone. So I'm just trying to find all those little bits of brown that were put on by the sponge, and just make sure that they are not transparent enough to make it look wrong, basically. Soda water and laundry liquid, Gez, will lift it without bleaching the carpet. If that does work, do let me know, because I'm sure we can save the world from more painters spilling stuff everywhere. Yeah, I'd like to know, actually. Jeff says, Kez, just buy a scatter rug or move house. Steve, I feel like you need some blast marks on the right side now. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm going to try and go lighter on this side here. And on the next robot I do, because I've got 4 of these bad boys, is I'm going to try and do like actual damage, like bullet shots or shell shots or something like that, coming in at him, because I think that might look quite cool. It is quite difficult to get the angles right here. It's quite fun trying to follow the natural contours and just work out where corrosion would, or just sort of wear and tear would start to take place. It's quite a fun process. What I've got to try and do now is just get a little bit along that bottom edge, the inside ankle there. It's actually quite a tough spot to get to. Down here at the bottom. I realise actually throughout this project this is probably quite a hard thing to always see what it is that I'm doing. If you are struggling because I'm either out of shot or the model is being covered because I'm doing it like this, I'm really sorry. It's just it's difficult. It's difficult. If you're working on projects this evening though, do let me know what it is that you're working on, how that project is coming on. If the show ends before you get to say, then you can always drop it down in the comment section just down there at the bottom. I genuinely am interested in knowing what it is that you are doing, so do let me know. And of course, if you like what I do here, what we do here, then do consider liking, following, or sharing on Facebook or any of the platforms that we're on. But of course YouTube here is the one that really counts, so don't forget to subscribe. Every little bit that you do has a massive effect for me here. Positivity, enthusiasm, encouragement, and it makes the show grow, so please do consider subscribing. In fact, don't even consider, just do it. Or I'll invite Steve back again. We are coming up to the end of the show, so we've got about 10, maybe 15 minutes left. So yeah, if you have watched through to this far, thank you very much. Steve says, I know this is not the look you're going for, but if you painted some big red Mickey Mouse eyes on his Fizzog right now, it would make my day. You know, the amount of requests I've had for googly eyes. That's just a big fat no. What did I see earlier on was someone had stuck googly eyes over the alien from the original Alien movie. Completely changes the way that one would interpret that film. Becomes a whole lot less scary. Brilliant. Coming back with the sponge. Stuck on my tweezers, please get off, thank you very much. Oh, I keep dropping him today. Fortunately, he's quite a resilient model because he's huge. Googly eyes. Do it. I'm actually looking forward to painting the faceplate on him. If I'm not going to do googly eyes, as some of you guys seem to be pushing me for, it's not happening. Or maybe I will, but off screen I'll show you a photograph later on. Oh, there's a little patch down there that did not go so well at all. Let me just come in with a wet paintbrush there and just pick that out. We'll start that a little bit again. It's feeling a bit too heavy there, I think. Got this huge ankle joint thing here, and I just feel that there's a lot of wear and tear that would occur underneath there, so well, let's just try and get that worn down. There we go, like that. A little bit more perhaps just around this front bit here. That's cool, like that. I feel that there'll be quite a bit of wear right at the bottom of the toes or the feet or whatever, because, you know, constantly walking on things and rocks and stuff. Corpses, shingle beaches for those holidays away. Even robots got to have holidays, right? Isn't that essentially what Terminator Dark Fate is all about? That's a controversial film if ever I saw one. Looking good. A bit heavy on that side, but nah, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Is looking good though. Do it, do it, do it. Googly ears? How does one do googly ears, pray tell? What I'm actually thinking about doing on the faceplate is like making like a dark green screen, which I'll make lighter and lighter in like the middle perhaps, but I'd like to do like different types of like 1950s style computers, like oscillating waves and things, and some like text or something like that, and just make them completely non-human. And maybe one with googly eyes. Or like LCD faces. Feet are quite weird because as I'm getting this effect in right at the bottom of the feet here, where you'd expect there to be wear and tear from walking in whatever environment it's walking in constantly, I'm getting a lot of that brown effect on the base, and it doesn't look like that his feet join anywhere, but I'll have to neaten all that up again when I come in and do all the basing colours, techniques, etc. So yeah, that's something for later. Not going to put too much extra paint in the palette here because we are getting quite close to the end of the show. If there's anything else that you want to say or add in, now's a good time to do it. Steve, that doesn't mean you. Just kidding. I'd probably put a bit too much liqueur in that hot chocolate. No such thing. Be really interested to see what everybody else thinks about this right now. Do you think that this is an appropriate level of wear? Do you think that this is better? What side do you prefer? Do you prefer this side? Do you prefer this side here where it's actually a lot less? I am going to try and go less on the other side here, just make it look like it's taking more damage to one side. Yeah, let me know what you think, because I would like to know. There are lots of bits of silver that I've overpainted when I'm trying to get into these tiny little areas like down here that I'm quite glad to be painting over. I said like a couple of episodes ago when I first started painting him that I said that I'd get those with the weathering colour, and here I am doing it. Looking good. Looking good. It's going to look good when the silver goes on. Ket says, I prefer less myself. Yeah, I think I do. Although it does still look very effective, still looks very good. But it's okay to have a bit more on one model, isn't it, I suppose? Arnie goes to Benners. What are you talking about? Do Grimdark Future Robots come with native Facebook support? No. They have to have that added up after they've been booted up at their home. That's a fact. And of course, if you've got any problems, you can just turn them off and on again. That's what this guy's for, IT tech support. Steve says, I prefer his left shoulder area as it looks like corrosion to me on the right side where it's a heavy effect. It feels like some pock marks, blast holes would help it look more like wall wounds. Yeah, you're right. This side here looks much more like it's just sort of weather and corrosion and things. That does look better. Hopefully when I put the silver in, it will break all this up as well, and it'll make it look much more, I suppose, real, subtle as well. Like it adds a lot of depth. This is very heavy brown, but it will be broken up with a lot more silver in there as well. Got to trust the process. As a proof of concept, it's pretty good. Thanks very much. I think that's about as much as I can really get away with on this side. I'm just making sure there aren't any glaring bits that I've kind of missed. because that's always really frustrating when you come back to it and you're like, ah, there's that bit that I just should have seen. Have got a bit carried away, but I don't think it looks all that bad. It is still quite good. You can tell the difference of like how heavy I've been. So this is like last week, so I was just trying to do light on the back and a bit heavier on this side, but that was because of the sponge where this bit here went quite heavy. So I just kind of tried to make it fit in with some, you know, brushwork or whatever, and then I've just carried that on all the way around. This little bit here doesn't look so real. You can see like my dabbing method. So what I do is just come in with some rogue bristles and just break it up a little bit. That looks much better there now. Steve says the man who has never painted anything more complex than a bungalow. But I still appreciate every comment that comes in, because you are the casual observer, and I want this to look real to anyone that kind of just sort of saw it. So it's fine. I thank you for your comments and your feedback, because I will only get better by trying to make it better. You know, if you don't push yourself, you never will get anywhere. Got to try and step it up all the time. Looking pretty good. What I'll do ever so quickly is I'll just come in with a little bit of silver on a sponge, just to sort of see how it looks on the other side ever so quickly, just before we disappear for the evening, because we are at that time now. Got a little bit of chainmail. Give it a little bit of a shake. I'm not going to go crazy with it. Just going to put a tiny dollop in there. There we go. I've got a separate sponge that I was using for silver. End of that's gone quite hard from that paint in there, so just pull that off. Pull that off. There we go. Chuck it on the workbench. Who cares? Tweezers. Using quite a point on that sponge. Pick up all the paints on there. And again, I can go too heavy with the silver, and silver is such a bright colour, especially against this dark brown you can see here on my hand. It's really important to really just wear that down. So it's just really tiny amounts that are going on there. You can see there that it's quite thick on one side. If I start brushing, it just applies like a brush, and that's just too much. So let's get rid of that. There we go. And now, if I come in here, worn most of the silver paint off. There we go. You can see already the effect that that's having just in there. And there are places where you want to use that sort of brushing or wiping effect just along the edges of where it's going to be the heaviest. So on the edge of the, you can see in the corner of the shoulder there, that much more effective. Cool. Let's see what happens if I come in with a brush. Well, actually, I don't know what I've done with my silver paint. I put it down somewhere. I don't know what I've done with it. So I can't actually apply anymore. There it is. I put it all the way over there for. Crazy. and even more gentlerier than I was doing with the brown. Get the tiniest amount on the end of the brush here. You can see that it comes on really heavy. It's just a small amount on the end of the brush as well. There's hardly anything there. The effect that that has is just very overpowering. And from here, a few rogue bristles are absolutely welcome. Build it up bit by bit, bit by bit. Don't want to cover up the whole brown area. Yeah, there we go. That is kind of cool. I like it. It's really good. And especially along the edges. So along the collar here. Difference that's making already. From here you can see that that's really quite silvery when I shine the light on it, but when I shine it away you can see that it's actually quite brown, and it works really quite well. I can come back in and soften the edge of the silver down with a bit more brown on there if I wanted to, and just keep on working and working. I could probably spend forever doing all of that on there. The idea is just very subtly just build up the silver. I'm concentrating just like I did originally, right on the edge, right on the corner with all the silver, and then the more I spend time on that, the more intense that silver becomes. Looks like it's really worn down through abrasion more than anything, and I can just bring a little bit in by bringing the tips of the bristles up. I can bring bristles into if I want to, but I think they've got more important things to be doing. And I actually follow in the sort of pattern that the brown there has made. Reactivate any paints in the bristles just by licking it a little bit, but I wouldn't advise doing that too much because, you know, paint's yucky, right? And again, just following all the way along now, all the way. Trying to avoid getting it too intense too quickly, because it's easier to add more than it is to take anything away. There we go. You can see that I've got a couple of like lines on there. Like scrapes, if you like. Looking kind of cool already. Yeah, I like that. Build up that corner a little bit, because I feel like that's just where it would have some. Nice! Looks like a little bit of overpaint on there. I could probably try and wash that away a little bit if I didn't like it. Let's see how easy it is. Can I just get like a wet brush in there and just sort of take it down a bit? I can. That's actually made it look much better. Wonderful, cool. Got a long way to go, but it's looking really good. Steve says, Corey says hi. Hi Corey, I hope you're doing well. Didn't realise that you were a fan of the show, perhaps you're just passing by. Staff says, alright guys, gotta go collect the child, see you next week. See you later Staff, take care mate, see you soon. Hope it's yours. Brown area. Okay, it's got to that time of day. That is fine. I'm going to sit here and clean my brushes out for a minute. Let's come away from the workbench. What are we doing here? Let's get away from here. Brown area. Sorry everybody. Sorry, Steve came along. Sorry. Anyway, end of the show. Been a productive evening. I was hoping to actually get all of the rust effects done. I had a feeling that I wouldn't necessarily get all of the silver work done on it, but I was expecting to get all the brown done, and they've still got to do the fists yet as well. Then they're going to look quite heavily worn because while it goes around punching things and people and buildings and stuff, right? So I want the actual hands to look quite worn down. And then it's just doing gun and the head, and I think that will look quite good when it's all done, hopefully, because otherwise it'll look rubbish. But yeah, what I'm going to try and do this week during between now and the next week's show is to get all of that rust work, all that silver work all done, even on the hands if I can. So the next week I'm just looking at pretty much rounding it up and finishing off the whole model, which will be really cool. Getting their head done. The head will have the same sort of effect on that. I don't know how well the brown will show up against black, but it's all part of the experiment. And the gun, I'm just going to try and make it look quite rustic as much as I can anyway. And then it's just going to be doing some of those cool patterns that I was talking about on the faceplate, or on the fizz gig, or whatever it was that Steve called it earlier on. Anyway, there you go. I hope you guys have had a productive evening. I hope you guys have been productive in your projects, whatever it is that you might have been working on this evening. So many double entendres. Yep. Enough there to go for all night. Anyway, I'm going to leave it pretty much there now. I'm going to be heading on over to Discord in just a few minutes. I'm going to go and say hello to my partner, who's just been kind of hanging out downstairs, and then I'm going to be back. And I'm going to be playing on Discord probably for a few hours with Steve and anybody else who wants to come and join us. We don't know what we're going to be doing yet. I think I've finished painting for the evening. I need to slow down on that one because I'm going a bit too heavy. So that's pretty much it from me, Steve, and the rest of the guys over there in the live chat. I hope you've had a great evening. Until next week, take care, stay safe, be kind, and keep on painting. And I'll see you soon. Take care now. Bye-bye. Sure, there was so much I wanted to talk about, but I've been so distracted.